don't you know I've had a stroke? And my name is Mike Peters, and you are live on Facebook and YouTube, so please do not swear. Right, today we're going to be catching up with Jo Teague, and she's joined by her husband, and I hope he's her husband, Danny, today. But I just want to share with you a moment. I had a great meeting with an assembly member who, her name is Jane Hutt. And we were talking about mental health and well-being during this global pandemic. And so she's really interested how COVID has affected disabled people and people who've had a stroke, and that's me. So if you're watching, please say hello and where you're from. Oh, we've got to the sound is like underwater. I don't know. Anyway, without further ado, welcome Jo Teague and Danny Teague. Hello, lovely people.
Hello.
Hi.
Hello again.
Can you introduce yourselves, please? Starting with a good-looking one, Jo.
That's you. I'm Jo Teague. I spoke to you, 6 weeks or so ago about living with a condition called vascular Ehlers-Danlos, or dandruff, as Mike now calls it. And that's a rare genetic condition of collagen, which makes blood vessels and other organs very weak, so that they split. They're prone to sort of sudden rupture. And the average life expectancy is sort of 40 years. Has it gone up a little bit, maybe? I've gone up a few years, but essentially it's not great. So obviously when COVID came on the scene, then I was advised to, not to shield, but to be very, very vigilant about it.
Oh, great, thank you. So Salud is from Inglewood, California. I think I did mention I'm a global internet sensation, didn't I?
Once or twice you've mentioned it.
Yes, you did mention that, Mike, yes.
So Salud is a caregiver for her husband Tom, who's got the best smile in the world.
You better
Right.
introduce yourself.
Yeah, your turn.
Yeah, good afternoon. So I'm Danny Teague, Jo's husband. And unfortunately managed to contract COVID in early December. So that's going to be part of what we're going to talk about this afternoon, I think. Yes.
Yeah.
So that's me. Thank you.
So it's all your fault, yeah?
Apparently so, yes.
Always blame the husband. My wife does.
Too right.
Yeah.
Too right.
So you contracted it, Danny. Do you know where from?
No, to us, Mike, that's a complete mystery, because for a couple of weeks at least before that, before we felt the symptoms, or I felt the symptoms, then I hadn't been anywhere. I hadn't been to any of the shops or anything locally, and we had purposely been shielding ourselves because of Jo's condition. So it is a little bit of a mystery. We think it's possibly the new variant that's much more transmissible than the other one. So we think it's possibly that one, but otherwise, no, we don't know. Possibly a letter through the letterbox or one of the deliveries, but no, we really don't know.
So you had it first, and then you got a test, yeah?
Well, we had symptoms at the same time, didn't we?
Yeah, similar symptoms on the day. So we just started off with not being able to walk as far as we normally would, or one of the small hills that we often walk up. We couldn't make it to the top of the hill, so we weren't quite sure what that was.
And we were watching rugby with some friends that we often watch rugby with, and it's always a boozy affair. But obviously in lockdown it had to be via Zoom. So we were on our sofa, they were on their sofa watching it, and we were linked up by Zoom. And normally we'd sink a good few beers while we're doing it, and we didn't want any. We just wanted tea. So we sat there exhausted on the sofa with a cup of tea, and we said we must be hungover because we'd had a glass of wine the night before, but that was about all, wasn't it?
But it wasn't that. So that was a Sunday, I think, and by the Tuesday I was feeling so bad, but I didn't have any of the sort of big symptoms that are on any of the national news or the government websites. So I had sort of opposite symptoms. I was cold. I certainly didn't have a cough or a sore throat or loss of taste or smell or anything like that. So I only went to have a test to discount it. From my point of view, I thought I must have picked up another bug. And I nearly fell off my chair when the test came back positive the following day because I'm a key worker.
Did you have to go somewhere, or did you do it yourself?
No, we had to book onto a test centre, and the nearest one to us was my steg that only had spaces. And unbeknown to us, that's the other side of Bridgend, which had a very high infection rate as well.
Probably it's been the highest in the whole of the UK, isn't it?
Yeah, it has been for a while. But anyway, the test is quite unpleasant. But I think lots of people have had to have the test. So yes, but when the result came back as positive, I honestly just couldn't believe it because of how we've been shielding and wiping all the shopping when it comes through and all the deliveries. We've been wiping all of that. So yeah, don't know where it came from.
So what was your first thought when you got the results, Danny?
I was quite scared. I was actually quite scared because when you can see on the news, how serious it is. What you see on the papers tends to pick up the worst part of things, certainly on news or the internet. So I felt quite scared. Definitely. That was my first thought, was how we're going to cope for this. And then my next thought was if I've got it, Jo's been shielding. Obviously, she's got the EDS or the vascular Ehlers-Danlos. So how are we going to deal with that? What do we do next? That was the next thought, wasn't it?
So did you make you isolate straight away?
Well, Jo, you had the symptoms as well, didn't you?
At
that time, yeah. So we can only assume we must have picked it up from the same place, from opening the same letter or so something along those lines.
No, let's just get it sorted. You gave Jo COVID.
Okay, yes, let's be straight about that, yes. I got it first and I gave it to Jo, yes. Yeah.
I think, and I didn't have a test straight away because Danny went off to get his test just to rule it out, really, wasn't it? We didn't think for 1 second it would come back positive. So I didn't go and get a test, and it was actually 2 days later I managed to get a test. So you were positive on the Wednesday, so it was the Thursday till I could get a test, and mine actually came back negative. Although clearly I had symptoms, clearly I've had COVID, and the GP thinks that you have to have it done within 5 days of onset, and that maybe I was a day late getting the test. Or actually, Alice's boyfriend, who's in the army, who's been doing a lot of testing, apparently if you touch any other part of your mouth, like your tongue on the way in, then that can give you a negative. So probably
too much information.
It's too much information.
Yes, it's not a nice process, yes.
So I believe your son caught it as well.
Don't know how he caught it.
I think you're best to tell that story.
Yeah, it's my fault. Yeah. We like to share things around as a family, He moved out, he left the house about 2 months ago to move in with his girlfriend, just a couple of miles up the road. And he called in because his loving mum had made him a tin of mince pies for Christmas. And he didn't come in, he stood in the open doorway, and I handed him at arm's length this tin of mince pies. And lo and behold, he went down with it as well. But he's young and fit, and luckily he was, other than feeling very tired, he got off quite lightly with it.
And did his girlfriend catch it as well?
No, we assumed she would, but she came back negative. She works in a nursery, children's nursery, and she's pretty confident she had it back in March, before all the testing and everything was available. She said she was very poorly for about 3 weeks, and she's fairly sure she had it then.
I'm going to bring up some comments. Let me know if you can see them. So Naomi said, my sister's husband had it, but no, she never got it.
No,
It's amazing, isn't it?
it's fun. It's funny how two people living in the same house can react so differently to it.
Yes, because it completely wiped me out for at least a week,
Well,
or more than that. And I couldn't get out of bed. If I made it downstairs, I couldn't get off the sofa.
So it's just like a normal week for you.
I couldn't comment on that, Mike. But no, it was just so bad. I've never felt so bad.
Jo, can we share the story of how you nearly tried to kill him by making him run up and down the stairs?
Well, he really was poorly, wasn't it? There was one day, or a couple of days, but this first day that he really was very poorly, and he got out of bed late, very late, and gone and laid on the sofa and didn't even want to sit up. You know, it was a real effort to sit up. And every time he sat up to have a cup of tea or something, he just flopped back over again. He just wanted to lie down.
Just to be flat, yes.
And a friend had dropped her oximeter, you know, the thing that you stick on the end of your finger to measure your blood oxygen levels. She stuck one of those through the letterbox for us. And we were testing, or I was sticking that on your finger because he was white. Your face was red, and your hands and your feet were white. Were they really like
it was
a ghost?
freezing.
It was
Absolutely freezing.
And you were fully clothed with a blanket, the heating going, the log burner going, and you were still shivering. Weren't you? You were just you were really poorly. And the oxygen levels had started off at around 97-98% on this meter, and they started to drop down to sort of 93, 94. And from what I've learned watching the news and things, I knew there was a stage when we ought to really try and worry a bit about it. So I emailed the friend who had sent me this meter, because I couldn't work out, because my brain was such a fog, I couldn't work out, I couldn't read it and try and connect what it was I was looking for and what levels were dangerous levels. And so she came back to me. So it's not me who nearly killed him, it's actually this friend, the same one we watched rugby with, said that you should take a level, and then you should make them walk up the stairs and back, and then take it again. And if it was under sort of 92 or so, then that was the time to worry. So I kicked you off the sofa and made you walk
Literally
upstairs.
kicked me off the sofa.
got a few choice words in the process. I'm not too happy about it. And came back, and it had dropped to 70. At which point, we sort of panicked a little, made you lie back down quick. And I rang the GP, who put us in touch with the emergency services in Cardiff and the Vale. Because you can't just turn up at A&E anymore. You have to book your slot. So I rang their emergency number, and they said I had to get you to the hospital in Cardiff, which is a good 40-minute drive, isn't it? 45-minute drive. And not to wait for an ambulance. There wasn't time to wait for an ambulance. I just had to get you there. And I really wasn't up to driving, was I? You know, I wasn't really. I hadn't been driving. I wasn't really feeling well enough to drive. But just determination got you there, and kicked you out into A&E, and watched you walk in on your own.
Well, and we weren't allowed just to walk in either. That was the. You had to have your temperature taken. You had to stand in the queue, have the temperature taken before you could go in, and you had to be booked in. You couldn't just go into A&E. Yeah, so it wasn't a pleasant experience, was it?
Not at all.
No, and lots of waiting. I think I was in that part of the hospital for about 8 hours. So I had chest X-ray, oxygen levels taken, an ECG. And I was actually lucky enough to be well enough to come home again. So I was very, very happy about that, because the hospital was not a nice place to be in.
You said there were people lying all over the floor because they just wanted to lie down.
Yeah, everyone seemed to want to lie down, and you still had to keep 2 meters apart, and it was just a very stark place.
And you said there were a lot of younger people.
Well, that was the scary thing. I mean, I'm early 50s, and there were people that were a lot younger than me who were going in, or who were being wheeled in and admitted. So it was
early 50s. You do realise you're supposed to tell the truth on my show.
That is the whole truth, yes.
So Slew says 70 is very low.
Yes,
it is.
yes.
And actually, they explained when you got there that because this thing goes on the end of your finger, and because your body was fighting infection, your body was keeping all your blood in the core, and that's why your hands were so cold. So that's why, because they laughed, didn't they? And they said if it was 70, you'd be dead by now.
Yes.
But that was why we got the low reading, was because his hands were white, there was no blood circulating there.
So Slew says Tom's oxygen level is usually 97 to 100.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, that's
Well, that's
right.
where yours started, wasn't it? 97, 98.
Yes.
But then you made him run up and down the stairs.
Yeah, I haven't killed you yet. Let's try this, see if this one works.
So you're in hospital, they send you home. So what did they tell you to do?
Well, part of so I was taking paracetamol at regular intervals to try and regulate my temperature, and I was also taking ibuprofen at night time, long acting, either 8 or 12 hours, because I was shaking and I had cramps, I think is the best way of describing it. But the doctor said you must stop taking the ibuprofen immediately because they don't know what that's going to do with COVID. So the advice is not to take ibuprofen or that type of painkiller with COVID. So I was lucky enough to come home, as I said, and they said you just have to rest, keep plenty of fluids, and you just have to rest, lie down as much as possible, and if your breathing gets worse, lie on your front. Was the advice that came from the medical doctor, because that assists your breathing. So turn over and lie on your front. That's what he said. Yeah.
And you didn't have it as bad, Jo?
No, my blood oxygen levels they stayed up, didn't they? They were fine, but we both had, I think that our worst, well, no, obviously you being cold and shaking was worse, but it was the fatigue and the just not being able to think straight. You know, I've had brain fog before, but nothing like that. When we laughed in the end, sat on our sofa under our blankets, because Daddy said, "What day is it?" I said, "Well, I don't know." We don't know. Is it Monday? Tuesday? And we couldn't work out what day it was, and we didn't even have the wherewithal to look at our phones or the telly or something. We just sat there debating what day it might be. And we were then a couple of days later, when we were feeling a little bit better, and obviously Christmas was coming up. We were trying to get a few Christmas cards written for the family. And we were sat at the table, we were trying to, Danny had written one for his mum, and she's moved quite recently. And Danny couldn't remember the name of the road. And we couldn't remember where we would have written it down. It wasn't in the address book, and we couldn't remember where we would have it. So he said, "Oh, well, I can remember it's the name of a fruit." And we sat there for about 10 minutes going, apple, orange, lemon. And then after a while, Danny said, "Oh, no. It was an unusual fruit." I'm going, pomegranate, kiwi. And I had this magazine on the table that had come through the post, the Good Housekeeping recipes and things for Christmas. And I opened it up, and there was a picture of how to make cranberry sauce. So I said, "Oh, cranberry." "Yes," he said, "that's the one."
Yes,
So
Cranberry Road.
Cranberry Road, yeah, we had some silly moments like that made us laugh. But
Can I ask a question? You know, when you're doing your Christmas cards, did you think, I can't lick the envelopes now?
Yes.
That's true. Yeah.
We did because we
know.
wrote the Christmas cards, and then we put them into a plastic bag, and we put them up in the shed, and we didn't touch them for sort of 10 days. So this was around the 9th or 10th of December, maybe somewhere around then.
Everyone got them very late this year.
Yes, and we didn't post them until very late, so no one got them for Christmas. But it was the thought that counts. Yes, we did.
And then when we did post them, I mean, they'd been inside a plastic bag which had been sprayed, and even when we posted them, we emptied the bag into the box rather than touch any of the letters. So yeah, we felt like lepers for a while, didn't we?
We did,
I just burnt it. Joking.
Yes.
Well,
Yeah,
it just made you think. I mean, I just took mine in now. I don't lick.
that's a good idea. Yeah, I
All
like.
right. Okay. Yes. Yes,
Yeah,
it's a good idea. Yeah.
it is. Yeah. So I think we were
So,
very touched again about friends, you know, immediately helping us out. We were running low on paracetamol when we had letterbox would go and another box was coming through. You know, another box of paracetamol was being posted, and a friend brought dinner round for us and left it on the doorstep one night. And then
I
when it
did
was
have
ready,
to.
I
I did have
know, thank you.
to do a drive-by on my mobility scooter.
Did. But we would have felt awful if we'd given it to you. We really would have felt bad.
I wouldn't have stood a chance. Stroke, heart attack, sepsis, now bloody COVID. No.
Yes.
No,
Yeah.
last
Keep
thing we
it.
need.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
We will.
I did
Yeah.
wave at you.
You did, yeah. We had some, yeah. Lots of people came and gave us a little wave, and some friends who, dare I say it, are a little bit older than us. We felt awful because they offered to get us a Christmas tree from the local nursery, this 6-foot tree, and we watched them lug it from their car all the way around the back into the garden and stand it up against the back door. And we were just lying on the sofa.
I couldn't get off the sofa. Yes. Yes.
So Jerry's watching. Now, I'm sure he says from New Braunfels, Texas.
Texas, right.
I thought he was somewhere else. I've never. Jerry's a great man. He does a show on a Tuesday and a Thursday, and he's one of my best buddies in the world.
Yeah, lovely.
Hi, Jerry.
Hello, Jerry. It looks sunny where you are. Is it sunny there?
I don't know, they're about to know, I think.
Oh,
Oh,
okay.
okay, not then.
I'm sure he'll let us know. They usually do. So, have you experienced any of these things called long COVID?
Well, that's what I'm worried about now, because I started back at work a week ago, but only doing 2 or 3 hours a day, and even that, by the end of the day, I'm just wiped out. And every time I sit in the chair,
Not the end of the day, the end of the
well,
2 or 3
the end
hours.
of the 2 or 3
yeah.
hours, yes. And every time I sit in the chair, I fall asleep now, don't I?
Yeah.
So yes, and
Yeah.
trying to concentrate on a screen, on a computer screen is terrible.
Well, the first week we went back to work, it was about an hour or so, wasn't it? As much, just to, and looking at the screen, like if we were doing like a Zoom meeting and you've got several faces on the screen, the faces were jumbling all over the place, weren't they? It was a horrible sensation, really. Yeah, weird. And I was in a meeting and it felt like everyone was shouting at me. I felt like saying, "Yeah, don't shout." I'm sure they weren't shouting. It just sounded like they were. It was bizarre.
It sounds familiar because I get post-stroke fatigue, and
Right.
what I've noticed, all my senses have been heightened. Smell,
Right.
hearing. It feels like everybody's shouting, and Jude bangs the kitchen doors a lot.
Oh well, that's what it was then. Was it?
Yeah.
I said to you, Millie, don't shout, stop shouting. So I'm not. I'm just
Yes.
Bizarre.
But yes, it is a worry of trying not to go back to work too soon, too quickly, and going back to what you were doing before, because you don't know how long the recovery is going to take. And there are cases of people who have gone back too quickly and then have to stop work again for another month or maybe 2 months, to recover properly. So I think it does need a staged return, I think is the best way of describing it.
Yeah.
Go slowly, yes.
But on a positive note, we've got a vaccine now, but also because you've had it, you've produced antibodies.
Yes, it's been on the news recently, isn't it? So hopefully we have some form of immunity now for maybe 4 or 5 months, which I hope
Well, there's
will
a
be long
study,
enough,
but
yeah.
it has only been going 5 months. So
Yes,
we can only
that's right.
say 5 months because that's as long as they've got.
Yeah, but hopefully that will be long enough to get us to having the vaccine.
The thing is, they'll be like vampires now. They'll want your plasma blood.
Yeah, well, that's something else that I've agreed to do now, because I tested positive, and that goes through the track and trace system and everything else. They want to take well, they say plasma, but I'm assuming blood in the first place, and then they separate out the antibodies, and they can give those to people that are particularly ill in the hope of helping them. So I'm very happy to do that. So I'm waiting for that.
Isn't science fascinating?
It's wonderful, isn't
yes,
it?
it is,
Well,
yeah.
if someone's really ill with it and they have this plasma, then it reduces the illness, doesn't it?
Yes.
Makes it less severe and quicker to
Yes.
recover from. So, yeah.
Yes, I'm also a relatively rare blood group, which is B negative, so that could be more useful for them as well. I'm not sure how the science
Certainly
works.
the blood would be.
Yes, and the blood would be as well. So yeah, hopefully.
I was listening to the news this morning, and it just hit me. It took one person to come into this country and spread the virus.
Yeah.
And being an island, we should have been like New Zealand. I mean, you know, my daughter is in New Zealand, and they're COVID free now because they just closed it down as an island.
Yeah, we're an island. Could have closed the borders, but it was too late, I suppose, by then.
Yes.
Yeah. If you think about Wales, have had much stricter lockdown rules than the rest of the UK, but we've now got the highest rates, so doesn't seem to be much rhyme to it.
I think we're a bit late to things, as you commented this morning. Reverend Jude said, "Shut in the stable door when the horse has bolted."
Yeah. I think
Very
that sums
wise
it up
woman.
quite well. Yeah.
Yes, it is.
Yeah. I just thought of another symptom you had, which I'm sure will sound very familiar to many of you, but you were so emotional, weren't you? Over Christmas.
We weren't going to talk about this.
Alice and Peter managed to come home from uni. They were delayed until we were better, but they managed to come home for a while. And they kept saying, "What's wrong with Dad?" And you cried, didn't you? An advert, what's the one where sponsor a puppy for a guide dog? And you've been fits in floods of tears. And we watched Home Alone, which we watch every year, and you cried at that when the family were reunited at the end of that.
Yeah.
So
it's definitely one of our. Jerry cries at the Voice in America.
right.
Okay.
Yeah.
It isn't. I cried every day for 5 months in hospital.
Wow.
Right.
And then the doctor said, "Why? A stroke does not affect your mental well-being," which is why I'm striving now to become an ambassador. Well, I am an ambassador now for the Stroke Association.
Yeah.
And Jane Hutt this morning said, "I'm going to become what is it when you fight for things?"
Campaigner?
Yeah.
Something like that?
Something like that. So I thought that was really nice. So she said, if they don't know about these things, how can they improve? So big shout out to Jane Hutt.
Yeah, okay.
I think if you haven't experienced it, it's very hard to understand, isn't it? Yeah.
That's why I love my stroke community across the world. Did I tell you I was a global internet? Just checking.
Not since 5 minutes ago, no.
Yes, but I did see one of the comments that came up earlier on that says if you wear a mask and gloves or you wash your hands, that you're still safe to go out, and that seems to be
that seems to be the message.
Yeah, the message that's out there. So yes, that seems to be safe.
Yeah. But I think we must have just dropped our guard at some point, because we've been so careful about always wearing a mask, maybe not wearing gloves, but certainly sanitizing our hands often, every few minutes when we're out and we touch anything, and we must have just dropped our guard and somehow we got it.
Yes.
Yeah, it was Naomi who said that. Naomi, because Jane's had a stroke. So
I think our attitude before we got it was that somehow this isn't going to go away quickly. We hope the vaccine will speed it up, and somehow you've got to learn to live a life where you're not thoroughly miserable, as best you can with it. So I suppose we took a few calculated risks, but it's difficult, isn't it, to decide where the risks are.
Yes, it is. Yes. And I mean, we did walk through the village, and there was some school children, or some school children on one side of the pavement, and we left what we thought was a distance, but some of the research now says that it's airborne. and it's in the air as well. So
and this new
I
one
suppose,
is easily transmitted.
so that's a possibility as well. But I think it's something we're never going to know the answer of how we caught it.
That's what I've struggled with. You know, I'm a very sociable person. So when people cross the pavement to go the other side of the road, and I'm saying hello, because you know I feel very isolated. So sometimes I drive around the village just to see somebody I know. It's sad, isn't it?
No, it's not sad. I think anyone you bump into will be delighted to see you because they're lonely as well.
Yes.
How we would have got through it if we'd been on our own, or one of us had been on our own. I can't imagine it would have been really because when we were ill, we sort of tucked in together. Nobody else could come into the house. We couldn't go out, and we were feeling poorly as well, but content that at least we had each other for company. We weren't much used to each other, but at least we had each other for company.
I think that was one thing that we both got it at the same time. Because if one of us had got it and had to self-isolate, I don't know quite how we would have coped with that for 10 days, or maybe you would have been okay with that. I don't know.
I could have peace and quiet for 10 days.
The thought of being in hospital for 5 months without you being able to see me, I wouldn't have been here now. I couldn't cope.
No.
That's the saddest thing, isn't it? For the people who are dying and they can't even have their relatives.
No, and the nurses, who are sitting with people as they're dying, you can't. That's beyond a call of duty, isn't it? A duty of care to do that. That takes someone very special to be able to sit with these people. What an awful thing to have to do, but knowing that you're the last person they're going to be with.
I reach out to my old nurse friends. I'm not supposed to because it's against the rule, but there's one who's gone back to work on a COVID ward, and she's nearly 70.
Wow. Yeah. Calling back all the retired. I know a lot of the GPs are sort of rallying around, aren't they? Retired GPs to get the vaccination program rolled out. Yeah. I think people do. I know. Sorry.
Is it 2.5 million we've vaccinated now?
I don't know.
I think that was in England, wasn't it? Yeah, that was yesterday.
I know Wales are lagging behind a little bit, but they're sure everyone have got a plan.
So when will you get yours, Jo?
Well, I don't know what number group I am, but I think I come with the over 60, so the 60 to 65, and the people at high risk. So not the ones who've been advised to shield, but the people who are at higher risk. So the spring, probably, I should think. And
so you're still cleaning things and not going out?
Yes, we are, and we've actually got there's a spray now that came from, probably not allowed to mention the brand, are we? But it came from the local supermarket, or was delivered to us, and it kills 99% of bacteria and
the COVID and viruses.
And virus. So there's a spray that you can spray everything with. So as parcels or letters come, are delivered now, we spray them first. We just keep that by the front door. But
is it from Amazon?
Yes, it was. Yeah.
You can say the name.
It's
a Dettol
spray. The blue and white can.
Dettol. The brand name is Dettol, and it's very, very good.
So Salou says one of her former students just passed away from COVID. He was in his 40s and a single father of 2.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's just so sad.
Someone in their 40s, it's young. I think all the younger people, the younger generations, think they're immune to it, and they're not. We thought at first it was the age 70 and 80-year-olds at risk, but it's not just them now. No. It's younger people too.
It's everyone. Yeah, it's everyone. And
well, you're still here to tell the tale. So
yes.
Thank you so much for the update. I don't want to do any more updates on the Teagues. Thank you very much. Behave.
Yeah, we'd like a little badge, please, to say we survived it.
Well, thank you again. I love you both. Take care. and
All right.
we will have a gin and tonic one day. I
Oh,
promise.
that'd be nice. That
Yes.
would be nice. One day.
Looking forward
Stay
to that.
safe.
All right.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye. So thank you very much, and thank you for joining me, everybody. It's been a pleasure, and that's it. Just thank you, and I'll see you all very soon. See you next week. Take care. Stay safe. Bye.